Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this special episode of Jim's 5am Club. It's Monday morning and Australia, the world awakes to the news, to the very special news that Rafael Nadal has won the Australian Open, defeating Daniil Medvedev in 5 sets. He was down 2-0, and he looked gone for all money. But he came back, he hung around, he stuck around, and won his 21st major, making him the first out of the men to have achieved such a phenomenal outcome. And it just goes to show for each and every one of us that if you hang around, if you just hang in there, if you just keep on showing up, sooner or later the tide will change, the day will change, the opportunity will come your way. You will wear out, you will tire out your opponents, the naysayers, and all of those people who want to try and predict your future and bring in your future, impose your will, or God's will, should I say, on the world. Anyway, what a wonderful outcome. And it just goes to show that there is a huge difference between men's and women's tennis. And for that reason, the finals are held on different days, because if you held the women's final and the men's final on the same day, and the men's final followed the women's final, you would see the dramatic difference in the game between the men and the women. Not saying that women's tennis isn't exciting, but it definitely is at a different level. And when it's all said and done, congratulations to Rafa for making the decision to get vaccinated. Congratulations to Rafa for making a comeback, given that he had some injuries that he had to sort out and deal with. And congratulations to Rafa for being there at the age of, I think he's 35 now, so he's not a young bloke anymore. So he does have, like all of us, the challenges, the torments of the tyranny of aging. But he just showed last night that although he wasn't serving at his very best, he was physically probably not at his best, but he just kept on coming back, just kept on showing up, as we said, and delivered a magnificent outcome. The greatest slap in the face to Djokovic, to Novak Djokovic. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens from here on in. And I've got a feeling, I'll put it out there, but I remember when Tiger Woods got caught up with his indiscretions that made headlines all around the world, that he came back and he won just one major after that cataclysmic event. And I think also that Novak may also face similar sort of challenges, given the profile and the level of scrutiny that he's under, and I guess the embarrassment that he's feeling at the conscious and subconscious level. Because we need to understand, it's not what happens at our conscious level that impacts us and haunts us. It's what happens at the subconscious level, which may take years, as we noticed and as we learned from Tiger Woods. It may take years to rid yourself of the guilt and ridicule that you brought upon yourself through your actions and your choices. Anyway, what I'd love to do today is take you through a book summary. And today's book summary is entitled Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers by an author named Robert Sapolsky. Why zebras don't get ulcers. What an interesting book, and some interesting concepts to come from this book. So the author kicks off and reminds us, and this is a lead on to what I was saying about Novak Djokovic and the issues that he may face going forward. He said that the brain is a wonderful and complex organ that is essential for our survival, but sometimes the brain does not function effectively and causes issues and problems that shouldn't be there, but just keep on reappearing because of the way we're wired, of the way we think, based on the environment that we're stuck in, the vortex, the many vortexes that we're circulating in. But this book here is a deeper look at how the brain works and how we as humans function. And as we said, there's no rhyme or reason, but sometimes things don't function at their optimum, and as we said, can cause us grief and cause us issues. And the author goes on to say here that sometimes the brain gets restless, and it's caused through our overthinking, and this can lead to stress and anxiety that it can impact our health, both physical and mental. So we've got to understand that an overactive brain, where we're overthinking, where we're overcompensating in our actions, can continue to cause us issues and problems. And I guess in some ways it could be called the Tiger Woods effect, where he was a great player, technically absolutely brilliant, but because he wasn't in a good mental space following the issues with his breakup and his indiscretions, he took a long time to get back to playing and to get back to try and play at the level that he was at before he had his issues. So it just goes to show that it's more of a mental thing than a physical thing, but the mental thing can influence the physical thing as well, from what this author is telling us. Because if you're overactive in terms of your brain activity, it leads to stress, and stress leads to the secretion of hormones into our blood system, such as cortisol, which impacts our cardiovascular system, and it leads us to other problems because it causes us to work poorly. Our cardiovascular system does not work optimally and works against us. And this whole zebra analogy is based on the fact that theoretically zebras don't stress. And I guess most animals don't stress. They just live their lives and take it moment by moment, day by day. And they're in some ways able to manage stress and manage the state of their minds, which I guess is the key lesson that comes from this book, where there is a call to action from this author, where he's basically inviting each and every one of us to take responsibility and accountability for our state of mind and to do whatever we need to do to try and make it, to try and arrest the restlessness and bring some order and some calm into our thinking and our thought creation. So the first formal point to come from this book is where the author reminds us and comforts us by telling us that stress is a normal, natural response. And it's a natural response to a crisis situation. But we need to make sure not to create a crisis situation out of thin air. It's an important and powerful point that the author makes, that one person's crisis is another person's fun time, but we mustn't create crisis out of nothing when it's not there. We mustn't invent crisis. We mustn't manufacture it, because otherwise it's going to impact us and affect us in a negative way. The author then goes on to remind us once again that we are programmed to survive and to act when threatened. But, unfortunately, we are the ones who decide if we're threatened or not, if we're insulted or not, if we are offended or not. So the key understanding here, or the key point that the author's trying to make, is to allow us to understand that we have a power. We have a choice to make whether or not we feel threatened, we feel offended, and sometimes our biggest problems are self-induced. We self-induce, we create our own crisis based on our perceptions and how we receive and how we think and how we talk to ourselves about the certain problems that we have. So for that reason, the author tells us that it's best to be constantly on alert to these negative sort of situations, and to be alert, to be aware, and not to be overly alarmed all the time. Because if you're on edge, if you're always worried, if you always feel threatened, then your body is working against you, because you're stimulating the production of these stress hormones, which cause other issues, health issues and mental issues at the same time. And the author here says that our biggest source of stress, and this is a powerful point, our biggest source of stress is psychological. And in most of the situations, the psychological source of stress is artificial. And it's based on how we see things that end up having the greatest impact. So what are we saying here? What we're saying here is that the way we see things, the way we think about things, our perception, which is artificial and triggered by our own biases, can generate stress, or it can minimize stress, depending on how you deal with it. So what the author's saying here is that we are surrounded and triggered by irrational fears and artificial situations that we create and build in our own minds. But we need to understand one thing, that regardless of what happens to us in our daily lives, it will pass. Other problems, other challenges will come. And to understand that we can basically cope with any problem that we have. Everything is figure-outable. And we saw and we learnt last night that even though Rafael Nadal was struggling, he was clearly struggling against Daniil Medvedev. He was clearly struggling, and he was going to get thrashed in 3 sets. But he took it upon himself to take accountability and responsibility, and just kept on fighting, just kept on turning up, just kept on pressuring his opponent and generated some opportunities which changed the momentum of the match last night and gave him that history-winning outcome. The second formal point to come from this book is where the author says that we have an automatic nervous system that works in a remarkable way, and there are two parts to our nervous systems. We have a sympathetic nervous system which triggers stresses to real or imagined situations of crisis. It causes us to feel and to be alarmed when we think of danger, or we are presented with danger. And as we said, this danger could be real or it could be imagined. And in most circumstances, a lot of the things that we worry about, the dangers that we respond or react to, are imagined, are irrational. And as one author once said, that less than 10%, far less than 10% of the fears that you have will ever come to fruition. So we need to put and learn to put things into perspective, because a lot of those imagined situations of crisis are not all that real at all. But we live in alarm, we live in stress, we live in fear when we don't really need to, because the dangers are not real. But what this sympathetic nervous system actually does, when presented with the imagery of danger, is it triggers our reptilian brain into action, and it triggers our fight, flight or freeze response. And it's something that we generate when we feel feared or when we feel sexual, I guess, in a sexual situation. And the author says that this nervous system works on the one hand, and on the other hand we have a balancing nervous system which is called the parasympathetic nervous system, which works to induce calm and to generate a vegetative state where we're chilled and relaxed. So on the one hand we've got a nervous system which alerts us to danger and agitates us and calls us to action, and we've got another opposite nervous system which generates calmness and calls us to inaction and to peace and serenity. So each of these nervous systems generate hormones and secrete hormones into our blood systems which affect us at the cellular level. And these hormones can either keep us agitated and alert and on edge, or they can calm us, relax us, and make us feel tranquil. And I guess the key point is that based on the way we see things, based on the way we perceive the world, we can stimulate these in a way that can serve us, can improve our health, can make us feel better, stronger, rather than to have other people or external circumstances, external stimuli, working them against us. So you can control in many ways your situation, your responses, the hormones that are secreted into your bloodstream, and hence your stress levels or calmness levels, by controlling what you think about and how you think about things. So the author says that the last thing we need to understand is that we need to take responsibility for our actions, and giving back to community actually reduces our stress levels, because the more you give of yourself, the more you share of yourself, of your wealth, of your capabilities, the less stress you feel and the more peace and tranquility you bathe in. So participating in decision making is really, really important. What they've found is that in nursing homes, in hospitals, bringing up a family with children, the more people feel as if they can participate in the decisions that they have surrounding their life, the better and more healthier and happier they are. So participating in decision making promotes health and lifespan in people. So there's a big lesson there for each and every one of us for bringing up our children, or I guess managing our own health by making sure that we are participants, that we have a say in what we do and how we respond to life situations, rather than having other people control us and tell us what to do all the time. So the last point that the author makes is the importance of not stressing about things that are not worth stressing about. Don't stress about things that you can't control. Just like Rafael Nadal last night. He didn't stress about things which are outside of his control. He just played his game and made the most of the opportunities as and when they presented themselves. And by doing so, he was able to manage his energy for the times when he needed to act and make the most of things. So manage our stress levels or manage our energy levels for the things that you can control is the point and the message coming from this author and coming from this book. So don't waste your time worrying. Don't waste your time reacting to things that are not going to serve you and are not going to help you, is the key message coming from this book. So thank you very much for joining me on this Monday morning, this glorious morning where we witnessed last night Rafael Nadal winning the Australian Open, and once again confirming that the Australian Open is one of the greatest tennis championships in the world, worthy of being a Grand Slam and a game, an institution which is bigger than any one player. So a lot of people were worried that because of Djokovic and him being removed from the competition for his serious indiscretions, that the game was going to be called into dishonour and that the prestige of the Australian Open would be put into question. But we've learnt yet again that a major is a major, and a major brings out the best in all of those competitors who have made their way to Australia, and it is indeed one of the most prestigious, if not the most prestigious, tennis competition in the whole wide world. So congratulations, Rafa, on achieving number 21. And given that we've got the French Open up next, it's going to be interesting to see if Rafa can make it number 22. The world is waiting. The world is waiting with bated breath to see what is going to transpire and what's going to happen over the next year or two, and to see if Djokovic is capable of lifting and reaching and exceeding Rafa's achievements. But at this point in time, Rafa turned up, showed up, like each of us are called to do, and achieved an absolute wonderful dream. So take care, everybody. Have a great rest of the week. I look forward to coming to you again from a different place with a different message of empowerment, where we can lift each other, where we can show up, where we can hopefully learn something new that we can incorporate into our daily lives, and to live, learn, and pass it on. Take care, and as you can see, we've got sunrise happening over the next 10-15 minutes. The sky is just pinkening up over there, but I'm going to head off to work. So wishing everybody a happy work week, good health to each and every one of us, and bye to everybody. This is Jim signing off from Jim's 5am Club, and wishing you all the very, very best. Bye for now.